Hello, Captains. This is the Doctor. Welcome again to another video of Star Trek Online Agents of Yesterday Expansion 23rd Century Starfleet playthrough. This is the Tier 4 starship. I am now up to the TOS Tier 4 starship. So as you can see in the top left corner, I am a captain. I am level 39. That means I have been using this starship now since level 30. So I have 9 levels of experience on this, almost up to 40, so we can go for the next ship, which is Tier 5. But I now have a complete run-through of this ship, a lot of experience that I've had with this ship, so I can share some of that with you guys and let you know if this ship might be worth it for a purchase or not as you play through your career. This is, of course, a Tier 4 starship. It is meant for the captain level 39 through 40, or excuse me, level 30 through 40. 39 through 40, that would be a very short career. Level 30 through 40, a captain career, Tier 4. This is called a Temporal cruiser, so this is a cruiser type ship, and this is the Gemini class. So as you can see, what makes it very distinct from other ships is it's the 4 nacelle design. We've seen this before in TNG. Other ships have this 4 nacelle design. This is not unusual, but I believe this is like one of the first iterations of that 4 nacelle design, or at least it's supposed to be. But this is the TOS version of what a 4 nacelle design would look like. And I quite like the looks of it. I think it looks really good as a Starfleet starship. You look at it and you recognize it as a Starfleet ship. It is very TOS-like. Very, very, very reminiscent of a 23rd century starship. So I'm pretty much going to do this review like I've done the other ship reviews on this faction so far, and do it kind of reversed. I'm going to first go into combat and show you what it's like in combat, and then we'll go look over all the specs on it and read about it and see what it's all about. But note, I am level 39, so I'm just about to hit 40, as you can see, very close to 40, so I am completely what you would call max level on this ship. I've maxed it out as much as possible during the captain career path. I am using all Mark 8 gear, so it's all up to date with the current level gear that I would need for a captain character. And I'll show you the build, but it's actually pretty good. I've got a lot of rares, even some very rares in there. We got a pretty good build on it as far as captain goes. Of course, all that's about to go out the window when I upgrade everything to Tier 5 next. But anyway, let's go into the re-system. I've already pre-checked this out so that we don't have issues that I had in the previous videos where they were not very good patrols. This one has some Romulan ships in it, so this is going to be a good test of this ship. Go up against some Romulans, which is appropriate for a captain level. The thing to look for here is the special console ability called a Temporal Shockwave. It's a PBOE 4 kilometers physical damage over time, damage resistance, and shield hardness debuff to the enemy. So this is a power that you utilize, and it does bad things to the enemy. It doesn't really buff you, more so it debuffs the enemy. And since it is in a spherical kind of cone thing, you have to be within 4 kilometers of the enemy for it to have its effect. So that's something you got to be real close to the enemy. I'll use it and you will see it being used. It is a very cool looking ability, so keep that in mind. We'll look at that, and don't look at the physical damage right there right now. The actual physical damage will be shown when we're in regular space. In sector space, it doesn't show the actual realistic numbers. And then, of course, because it's a temporal ship, just like all of them, it's going to have the molecular deconstruction beam as well. So that hasn't changed through all 3 ships. This is the same ability that all 3 ships have had. But the unique one here is Temporal Shockwave on this ship. I also, like I said I was going to do, did put the M6 computer on this one. So I do have the advanced tactical computer from the previous ship the Tier 3 ship. However, I will not use it in our run through here just because I want to use what's native to the ship only. So let's jump in the Re system. Now once we jump in here, I will just briefly look at our specs before we go into combat so you know what we're dealing with. I hate these server not responding. These can sometimes go very quickly, or sometimes these can last a long time. I hate this for you guys. I hate this for me. This happens a lot. I don't understand it. I literally just went into the system like 5 minutes ago to get this video ready, to make sure that the system worked and that what it had in it. And 5 minutes later, and it does server not responding again. So I don't know why. I don't know why that happens. Anyway, that was long and unneeded. Okay, here we go. So there's a nice view, a nice shot of the ship warping in. You can see that. Oh, it's just so beautiful. I mean, that toss coloring, the texture, everything about it is just so awesome. So this is going to be Romulan ships. So the actual physical damage, actually I guess that was correct. The actual physical damage it's doing is 365.4 physical damage every 1 second for 15 seconds. And then a negative 25 all energy damage resistance, so it reduces their energy damage resistance. And it increases damage to shields by 25%. So a very cool ability. I actually like this ability, except that you have to be very close for it to work well. That's the only downside. I'll talk about turn rate and all that stuff in a little bit, but let's just quickly look at where I'm sitting at here. 46,445 hull, so a pretty good hull for a level 39 character. Almost 10,000 shield, 27% resist, 3.5% crit chance, 52% crit severity. My crit chance and crit severity could definitely stand an upgrade. They are very low right now. My turn rate, that's really the big issue with this ship. As you can see, it's turning slow. The turn rate is at 9.1 degrees per second at impulse, and I actually do have an RCS accelerator on, and it's still that slow. So yeah, that's the downside to this ship, but we'll talk about that. It is a cruiser, so you would expect it to be a little slow. But let's just do some combat here. Hit the wrong one. I meant to hit weapon system efficiency. There we go.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
Tearing right through the Romulans. Very easy right there. Definitely a powerful ship. It has a lot of beam weapons you can put on this thing, and I do recommend beam weapons. It's a very slow ship. I don't think it supports cannons anyway. It's a cruiser, so it is what it is. Again, you'll notice I didn't use this ability, the Temporal Shockwave, because I was far away from the enemy. In order for this to work, you got to be right up on your enemy. So like for this heavy warbird example, for example, if I want to use this ability, I need to get within 4 kilometers. Look how close I got to get. Now I can use it.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
Now, what you will notice from that is that it does not do a lot of damage up front, meaning the first time you hit the ability, it doesn't seem like it's even doing any damage to the ship hardly. But what happens is that damage builds over time, and that's where the crux of the weapon has its advantage, is over time. Because you will see it does physical damage every 1 second for 15 seconds. So basically, 15 basically 365 every 1 second for 15 seconds. So if you let it go for 15 seconds, you know, that's going to do a lot of damage. But the first 1 second, that's really not a lot of damage. So the first time you hit it, you're going to be like, oh, where's the damage at? But then wait 15 seconds, oh, there's the damage, okay. That's kind of the downside too, because by the time 15 seconds is up, you've already got it destroyed anyway from your conventional weapons. Pretty much, sometimes you can, you know, kill them a lot faster than 15 seconds. So the problem there is using it is good, but within like 5 to 10 seconds, you've pretty much already got the enemy killed from your conventional weapons anyway. So yeah, it's helping, but it's really not helping to its maximum potential, if you kind of see what I'm talking about there. Right now, what I'm trying to do is let it cool down again, because I want to use it again and show you. This time I'm not going to attack the ship. This time I'm going to let the 15 seconds go and see how much damage it actually does. I'm not going to buff anything either. I'm just going to use the ability. So we need to get within 4 kilometers of this thing. Then I'm going to hit the ability, and then I'm not going to attack the ship. We're going to wait 15 seconds and see what kind of damage it does to this ship. I haven't tried this myself yet, so I'm very curious. Okay, I'm not going to buff anything else. I'm just going to go bam.
Warning, ship is under attack.
Now, we're not going to attack this ship. I will bring up my defenses, though. Okay, so it's doing a fair amount of damage. 372, 372. I guess it's done. So it brought it down to 85% hull.
Target's shields have failed.
So there you go. That was an interesting experiment, because I had never tried it that way before, but it brought that thing down to 85% hull without doing a single thing. So it shows that on the bigger enemies, the enemies that have a higher hull strength, it's probably not going to do a whole lot of damage even after 15 seconds. But I bet on the smaller enemies, like if there were a bunch of Talisses or something here, and I did it on like a whole bunch of enemies at once, the ones that have a lesser hull strength, those are, you know, those little frigates, or you know, the little ships, fighters, that kind of thing. I bet it would do a lot of damage to them. I wonder if we can find a group here of smaller ships. That would be fun to try it out. That's another warbird. Let's take it out. This time, let's do the deconstruction beam thing. Bam.
Warning, ship is under
That
attack.
does a whole lot more damage. Look at that. I mean, look at that. 34% hull. Wow. Well, that shows you that the molecular deconstruction beam does way more damage than the temporal shockwave. I mean, wow. That thing, it almost destroyed the Mogai completely with the deconstruction beam. That is pretty impressive, guys.
Warning,
Oops, I did not mean to do that,
target's
but I did.
shields have failed.
Oops. And dead. We're not done, don't worry. I do want to find a group of smaller ships. So what I'm going to do is fire up Skirmish like we did last time. That has a lot of little ships in it, I think. Turn that in.
Congratulations, Admiral.
Well, there you go. I'm level 40 now, so I can technically go do a promotion and get my tier 5 ship. Of course, we'll wait I'll do that off screen, and then of course have another video on the Tier 5 ship. But let's go to Klingon War. Let's go to Skirmish.
We have reports of...
We're going to do just the beginning of Skirmish like we did the last time. Because there's a lot of ships at once, it's a pretty good battle. But I want to use this temporal shockwave against several ships at once instead of just one ship. And maybe that is where its advantage is. So let's find out. Crap, I
Warning. Ship is under attack.
just realized that it has not cooled down yet.
Rear shields failing. Hull integrity below 75%. Hull integrity below 50%.
Ow. Get out of the way. Excuse me. Alright, now it is almost cooled down. There we go. Now it's cooled down. Now we can go back into combat. Let's heal up a little bit. Okay, we're going to get close here. We got to get really close, remember.
Ship is under attack.
Well, it's doing some damage. These bird of preys. It's doing damage. It's helping. Not as much as I would like it to.
Target's shields have failed. Left shields failing. Right shields failing. Hull integrity below 75%.
What is shooting at me? Oh. That guy down there is shooting at me. Well, okay. It did damage to those bird of preys, but not as much as I would want. But I guess it does help. And I will take every little bit I can get. But that deconstruction beam thing, that's the killer right there.
Warning. Ship is under attack. Target's shields have failed.
Well, there you go. So that is the Temporal Cruiser in action, guys. As you can see, obviously the type of weapons you use and your bridge officer powers, all that is up to you and can be different between users. But the main thing that's going to stick with the ship, that's going to be the same between everyone, is going to be this temporal shockwave and then the deconstruction beam. So as far as the temporal shockwave goes, I like it, and when there's like a lot of ships around you, and like I said, a lot of ships with a lesser hull strength, it can do a lot more damage on those ships. So if you have like a swarm of ships around you, it's good for that. Not so much against big enemies or big bosses. If you've got a big boss, you're gonna want to go for the molecular deconstruction beam. That one's going to do the most damage. But I do like this thing, and I wonder if there's a way to buff it more. Like, what buffs it? I don't know. Exotic damage. Skills that affect this ability. Okay, so this is an ability then that is... And I have no exotic damage buffs right now on this ship. I'm an engineer. My character is an engineer right now. I have absolutely no skill in exotic damage whatsoever. My auxiliary power is very low, so I have no auxiliary power for this thing. So I imagine if you put skill in exotic damage and you buff your auxiliary power, I bet then the temporal shockwave will be much more effective against the bigger enemies. However, of course, that means you're going to have to put skill points into exotic damage, and unless you're a science character, putting skill points into exotic damage is a bit of a waste of skill points just to activate one ability. If you were using a lot of abilities that had exotic damage, it would make sense, and it would definitely make sense on a science character or a science ship. But if you're flying, now this is a cruiser, keep in mind, and most people are going to fly this on an engineer or a tactical character or something. I guess you could fly it on a science, sure, why not? You can do anything you want, but typically you're not going to be throwing out a lot of science powers on this cruiser, which means you would only be buffing your exotic damage for one ability, and that is pretty much a waste of skill points. So yes, this thing can be buffed to be better than what I have shown you here today. But on this particular ship, it's not the kind of ship that you would normally be using a lot of science exotic powers on, which means you would be wasting skill points just for one ability. So I wish exotic damage wasn't buffing this thing. I wish it was something different, but that's how they've gone with it. I don't think it makes a lot of sense based on the type of ship and the people that would be flying this ship. You know, you wouldn't want to put those skill points there. For example, I have not put any skill points under, drain or control or any of that, for science, because I'm an engineer. I'm flying cruisers on this character mainly, and I'm not using any science powers. In fact, the only science station that this thing has is, as you can see, a lieutenant science, an ensign, and a lieutenant science station. So this ship is not geared for science bridge officer powers at all. It's heavy on engineering, and it's heavy on tactical. It is not heavy on science. So yeah, having a science ability out of this console that it comes with, a little strange. But I guess that's the way it is. Okay, let's go over the specs here. So again, my stealth detection rating is 15.9, 255% power transfer rate, 30.1% defense, hull is 46,445, hull repair rate 55% a minute, 154 shields, regen 8, actually my shield is not fully regen yet, 9237 shield capacity, 27% resist, 3.5 crit chance, 52 crit severity, and then 9.7 degrees a second turn rate. But I'm using an RCS. If I take that off, it's 8.2, so really slow turn rate without the RCS. So here it is without the RCS. This is just the base default ship turn rate, and it is it is slow. You can see here, trying to turn all the way around is an absolute nightmare. Just a nightmare of craziness and wanting to run away very fast. Yeah, this is not a turn rate that one enjoys. This ship was my first thought. Once I took this ship out for the very first time, my first impression was, holy crap, this is slow. The ship moves slow. The ship turns slow, and that has been my major gripe with this ship while flying it, is just the slowness. I understand cruisers are slower than escorts and science vessels, I get that, but this ship is just beyond slow. It is just, I was glad I only had to use it for 10 levels, or 10 grades, because it is so slow. I could never use this ship as an in-game ship, ever. I just could not, even if it was a tier 6 ship. There's no way I could use it as an in-game ship because it turns so freaking slow. It moves so freaking slow. It annoys the crap out of me, literally. So, yeah. So it was so slow. I did put an RCS on it. That brought it up a little bit, but even with the RCS, here it is with the RCS, it's a little bit more tolerable, but it's still molassesly, and I just made that word up, molassesly, describing the movement of molasses. It is molassesly slow. And that's with the RCS. I almost want to put all RCSs on the engineering consoles just to get this thing to turn better. Yeah, that is just slow, guys. That's been, excuse me, my major gripe with it right there. So, of course, you want to go with a beam build on this ship. I have, up front, 2 dual beam banks. Mark 8 very rare and another Mark 8 rare. And then I have a twin phaser up front. It's basically just a single beam, and then a regular photon torpedo in the front, and then 3 beams in the back. And that has pretty much been the setup here. I like to fire forward as much as I can because I want to take use of these dual beam banks, but it has been difficult with this ship because it moves so slow. So I would almost go backwards and put 2 single beams up front, just because you probably would be broadsiding most of the time on this ship. It just turns so slow. Broadsiding is probably your best option. In terms of deflector, impulse, warp, and shield, I had on here a positron deflector array Mark 8. This improves shield healing, maximum ship hit points. Now this does improve exotic damage, so I do have an exotic damage buff on here. I didn't notice, I forgot about this. But this deflector improves exotic damage on it, but it's only plus 6.2, so it's very minor. This also improves shield hit points as well. Then I have the prototype Gravatic Modulation Impulse Engine. This is a mission reward, very easy to get. Just play a mission, and there it is. It also has a flight turn rate increase, plus 0.18. So really, that turn rate, 8.2, 8.1, was not the default turn rate on this ship. That is being buffed a little bit by this impulse engine. So really, the turn rate is even lower than you saw by default. Even lower. That is just insane. The warp core is a deuterium stabilized warp core. I had sector speed on it. Again, I like to travel as fast as I can in sector space to get around to these missions. Plus 15% increase to base resistance rate of all power levels. Been a very good warp core. I just got this from the exchange. No biggie there. And then the shield I was using was a paratronic shield. It has a very high shield capacity. This is another mission reward. You get that from a mission reward, so that was, again, no biggie there. I got an EPS. I got my neutronium with the resistances, and of course RCS. I had to have an RCS console on the ship. Just could not live without it. And then the 2 consoles here, the temporal destabilization matrix that came with this ship, and then the M6 computer that came with the previous ship, so I can use its abilities as well. And then, of course, as much phaser damage as I could afford in the tactical consoles. And that's been my setup on this ship. As for the stations, you have a Lieutenant Commander tactical seating. So I did Beam Ray Fire at Will 3, the highest fire at will there. High Yield 2 Torpedo Spread 1, and then TAC Team. And then, of course, it does have a full Commander engineering seating because it's a cruiser. So I did the Aceton Beam 3, Directed Energy Modulation 2, Engineering Team 2, and Emergency Power to Weapons 1, and then Emergency Power to Engines 1, just to help me maneuver a little bit better. Then Science Team 2 and Hazard Emitters 1, very low on the science abilities, very high on the engineering abilities, and then secondary is the tactical abilities. So that's the seating there. This one's universal, by the way, this ensign here. This is universal, but I put it as a tactical slot, but it is universal, so I guess you could have one other ensign science power, but why would you on a cruiser? So that has been that. Let's see. Let's read about it. Let's do that. Let's go to the Z Store, Ships, Tier 4. Here we go. Gemini class. Known for a distinctive set of 4 warp nacelles, the Gemini-class temporal cruiser inspired future Starship engineers when designing the Constellation-class cruiser. A tenacious vessel, the Gemini was often used by Starfleet as a weapons system testbed in the field. Temporal starships are capable... Okay, this is the regular temporal stuff. I'm not going to reread this because this is the same as the previous ones. Talks about the molecular deconstruction beam and the different configurations, of course. The temporal cruiser comes with the Temporal Destabilizer Matrix Universal Console. When this console is activated, it will release a temporal shockwave that causes physical damage over time to nearby enemies and reduces damage resistance and shield hardness to all affected foes. This console may be equipped on any starship, and it may be equipped in any console slot. This ship has +5 to all power. The console, molecular reconstruction, and because it's an engineering or a cruiser, it has the command shield frequency modulation, weapon system efficiency, and attract fire. So that's the Gemini class. So here's those modes, of course. It has command attract fire, and then command shield frequency, and then command weapon system efficiency. So it's got those. And did I have that enabled the whole time? Yes, I did. So you know what? Okay, so let's take this off. Okay, it's actually a lot less. Okay, so I had the turn rate buff from this on as well. Okay, so without the RCS console, without the turn rate buff from the offensive configuration, it is 7.6 degrees per second. Now, again, this engine is giving me a slight turn rate. That has a turn rate buff too. I was looking to see if I had an engine that does not have a turn rate buff so I could see what the base is. I guess I could just pull it off. Then I wouldn't be moving at all. I don't have an engine to show that, so it's probably just a little bit less than 7.6 degrees per second. So this is now even slower than we were before. And imagine that it's actually just a tad slower than this by default. I mean, that is a brick, guys. This thing just barely moves. I mean, you can't turn, you can't... I mean, what's the point? You can't hardly move the ship. You can fly it straight. It's a straight flying ship. It flies straight. That's all it does. It flies straight. Yeah, this is just terrible, guys. And it's actually... And remember, the base is just a little bit lower than this. That's nuts. At least this speeds it up a little bit, but almost barely noticeable. Almost barely noticeable on that too. It takes that plus an RCS just to be usable. Just to be usable. So that's its main problem, turn rates. Let's go down to Earth Space Dock. We will look at configuration, see if there's any configuration we can do to it. I can tell you right now there's not, but just to show you guys and be thorough, I will go do that. Yep, let's get stuck on the railing. That's always good. By the way, I have skill in full impulse energy shunt and improved EPS flow. So, you know, as far as like coming out of, you know, full impulse and going into battle and having all the power I need, I've also got power in, I have extra power in engine subsystem performance. I forgot to show you guys that, but here it is. So I have extra engine power. So this is with some engine power buffs as well. That's with them. So if you did not have like engine subsystem performance and stuff like that, this ship would be even slower. Well, in fact, it was slower until I put that skill in there. So just keep that in mind. Go away, wrong one. Wrong one again. Let's go over here. Customize ship. So here it is, Gemini. Of course, if you have the Sagittarius, the 26th century version of the ship, you can put the skin on. But here's the TOS one. Again, the Pioneer bridge, so no unique bridge for the Gemini. No window options. The same texture options as all the other ships have been. And nothing you can do with the hull except change the skin. And the the block 1 pattern is the default pattern on the ship, just like all the other ships, and you can change the coloring of that pattern or whatever, and that's it. So pretty much all of these TOS ships so far have had no customization apart from pattern and pattern color. And of course you can change from the bridge, and none of them have had a unique bridge either. They've all shared the Pioneer bridge, so kind of lazy on the uniqueness of a bridge, because these are Z-Store ships. Remember, these are ships you're spending money on to buy, and none of them have a unique bridge. None of them have any hull options. None of them have, you know, you can't mix or match parts or whatever from. I wish you could take all three of them and mix and match parts from all three and like create a unique looking ship. That would be cool. So no customization options, I'm going to say. Very limited with these ships, as it has been on all of these ships. So there you go, everybody. That's the Temporal Cruiser Gemini class. As we load into space here to take one last look at the ship, I will summarize my playthrough of this ship by saying that I could have done without this ship. This is a ship that I did not really need at captain level. I could have been just fine using the Temporal escort that I had previously, the Tier 4 ship. It actually would have done just fine missioning from level 30 to 40. Would not have had one single problem with it. The biggest issue I have with the ship is just how slow it moves and how slow it turns. Now I've got a lot of turn buffs on here and it's still slow, but if you don't have any of those turn buffs on here like I have, the default turn rate on this thing is remarkably bad. Remarkably bad. There are better ship options that you get for free. In fact, I want to go back down to Earth Space Talk now and look what our other ship options are, because remember, at captain level, even on the 23rd century faction, you don't have to fly these Z-Store TOS ships. You can go with what the game gives you for free. Remember, you get a free token, like at level 30, to choose what ship you want. I'm just using this ship because they've given us this ship as a Z-Store option at 30, and I wanted to review it and see what it's like. But you don't have to. If you get a token for a free ship, you can use a level 30 ship. And that would be, I'm just going to show you what's available under that, under Captain. You would have the Exploration Cruiser, so the Enterprise D right here. Its turn rate is also slow. I mean, that's what you're going to get on a cruiser. Or you could go with a Tactical Escort. Look at that turn rate, that's incredible. Tactical Escort there. Or you could go with the middle ground and do like the Voyager here. Or you could go with a refit of these ships. Or you could go with this ship. Base turn rate 6. It pretty much has the Same base turn rate as the exploration cruiser. So you're really not getting an advantage with the turn rate there, but you might be getting advantages in other way, I'm not sure. I haven't really compared the two ships together. This has a lieutenant tactical. Well, I guess they are very similar, aren't they? 322. Oh, you know what? This has 3 engineering, but this one has 3 tactical. Yeah, this one has 3 tactical. Okay, well, actually, the bridge officer seating and the fact that it has 3 tactical is actually a little bit better with this ship. The turn rate is 31 I mean, the base hull is 31,250. This one has just a slightly better hull, but honestly, this one has better bridge officer seating and more tactical consoles, which means more damage with it. And they both have the same base turn rate. So that's interesting. You're not really getting a whole lot of an advantage, but I guess this one is a little bit better than the exploration cruiser. Plus, you would have the deconstruction beam and the temporal shockwave, which the exploration cruiser would not have. But also, you have to spend money for this ship. And on the exploration cruiser, you would have to spend no money, be completely free. So that's a big difference there too. That gives you a bit of an idea, at least, what you can get at captain level. But I would have been just fine with the exploration cruiser. I didn't really need to purchase this ship. Yeah, the deconstruction beam helped me every now and then, but it didn't like make it or break it for me. The temporal shockwave never really made it or broke it for me. It was fun, but it was never like a must-have item, to be honest with you. So yeah, so it's hard to kind of, I don't want to be too harsh. People don't like it when you're too harsh on a ship, but to be honest with you, I probably, if I had not bought the pack, you know, the whole pack of starships, I would not have purchased this ship separately. This is not a ship, after using it now for sure and knowing what it's all about, I would not have purchased this ship separately. I don't think it's that worth it. I don't think the value is there. Also, you level so quickly. Literally, guys, I mean, I have gone from level 30 to level 40 in a matter of about 4 hours. I'm not joking. I leveled up really fast, and I did this about the same with the last one too, between 20 and 30. So I am actually, and I think it's because of the temporal agent bonus. You get like some kind of XP or some kind of upgrade or whatever with the temporal agent bonus, and I don't know what the deal is, but leveling from 20 to 30 went really fast, and leveling from 30 to 40 has gone really fast. Like every mission, I've leveled a whole new grade with every mission. For example, I'll play a mission like in Wasteland, for example. I just finished the whole Wasteland, or let's do Romulan. I'm now in the Romulan stuff. Like I did Empress Sela, for example, or Desperate Measures. I play one mission and I level up one whole grade. I go from level like 36 to level 37 with just one mission. And that's happening between 20 and 30 and 30 and 40. So I'm leveling very fast. And I end up not having these ships very long. I mean, I think I've got a total of about 4 to 5 hours of time with this ship. Same with the last one, because I've just been leveling that fast. So when you're leveling that fast and going through these missions, the usefulness of the ship kind of goes down because you don't have it that long. You just don't have it that long. And you question, was the money worth it? Because I spent money on this ship, but I only played it for 5 hours. Where's the value there? And there's not any value. That's why I think that these ships are kind of probably a little bit of a waste of money. I would stick with the free ships that you get, because you don't have to spend money on them. You save a little bit, and they're just fine until you get to tier 6, because it's tier 6, level 60, where you want your best ship. That's where you want to spend your money. That's going to be the ship that you use for all of in-game, forever and ever and ever. So that's the ship you would want to spend money on. But these little ships here, getting up to that level, has not been a whole lot of time spent on them. And so it makes me question, whether the money purchase was worth it. And at the end of the day, I have to say it kind of was not worth it. I hate to be harsh like that, guys. I really do, because I'm sure some people out there are really enjoying these ships, but I mean, if you're only going to have 5 hours on the ship and then you're the next tier ship, what's the point of spending the money? You know what I mean? So the value's kind of not there. But back to this ship specifically, this ship is one of my least favorites of the TOS ships so far. I liked the Daedalus. I really enjoyed the Temporal Escort. That's my favorite so far. But this one is my least favorite so far. I would not purchase this ship just for this ship or the console. I would not. And as I said, I think it's kind of weird having an exotic particle ability on a cruiser, because you're typically not going to be using a lot of science powers or exotic ability powers anyway on the cruiser, so you're wasting skill points if you put your skill points into that stuff on this kind of ship or on this kind of character or whatever. You're wasting your stuff there. You're wasting skill points. But this ability might be good on a science ship. So like if I had a science ship and I had this ship, I could take the console off of this ship and put it on a science ship on a science character, one that's already buffed for exotic damage and aux power and all that stuff, and then use that ability there. I bet it would have a greater effect and it would be pretty cool. But on this ship, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. The deconstruction beam is way more powerful, and that's native to all temporal ships. So that's where I'm going to leave this, guys. This wasn't a very positive review. I want to make that clear. I definitely am not very positive about this ship, just this specific one so far. And overall, probably a waste of money, because I'm going through these ships so fast. I mean, guys, 2 days and I'm done. I mean, I play a few hours one day, a few hours the next day, and I'm done with the ship and ready for the next tier. So where's the value in my money there? It's just not there. But we'll see what happens with the next ship, because the next ship that I'm going to be going with is, of course, bring up the ships here, the Tier 5 ship I'm very excited about. This is the Temporal Battle Cruiser. This is the Ranger class. I've been highly looking forward to this ship. And because it's a level 40 ship, or a Tier 5 ship, I'm going to use it not just between 40 and 50, but I'm going to use this ship all the way up to level 60. I'm going to use it for 20 grades and see how it does. And that'll be a good test. And then when I get to level 60 is when I'll go for the Tier 6 ship. But since this is a Tier 5 ship, I'm going to use this next ship all the way from level 40, where I'm at now, all the way up to in-game level 60, because it's a Tier 5 ship. So we're about to really test out the Ranger class and see what it's like. I'm very excited. Anyway, that's my review of the Gemini class. Maybe unpopular, I don't know, but that's what I got. That's my experiences with it, so your mileage may vary, but yeah, that's me. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.